Popat.
Hello and welcome to Access TV. I'm your host, Diana Botea.
And I'm Gunargie O'Sullivan.
The highlights of this program are stories from the Chinese, Filipino, and First Nations communities.
Plus, the civic election is coming up. Hot topics with Sid Tan and Imtiaz Popat. Plus, the Leadership Council gives us a response about the recent Silcotin decision. What is Aboriginal title and what does it mean for the people? And then we have the Mount Poly disaster, the mining disaster. What will the impacts on the waterways be? That's what I need to know. What do you have next, Diana?
Our first story is from Elwen Shi about May Wong's book, which is about Chinese Canadian families and their history about being separated for decades.
Today I'm really pleased to be here and talk to you about my book called A Cowherd in Paradise, From China to Canada, especially in light of the Premier's recent apology to the Chinese Canadian community for past wrongs, and we'll talk about those past wrongs. But first, let me tell you about why I wrote this book. The first reason is to honor my parents for their courage and for the sacrifices that they made in coming to Canada. When my father first came to Canada, he had to spend his first few months in a jail at the bottom of Burrard Street. The second reason I wanted to talk to you was to share our Chinese Canadian history. It's a common history. It's what happened in Canada. It just happens to be what happened to the Chinese while they were in Canada. So in 2006, Prime Minister Stephen Harper, and just in May, our Premier Christy Clark made an apology, a formal apology, to the Chinese community for past wrongs. What Prime Minister Stephen Harper recognized was that the legislation that closed the doors to Chinese immigration and this head tax were discriminatory. Because even though I read in here that the Oriental problem was Chinese, Japanese, and East Indian, only the Chinese were targeted. The head tax and the immigration laws did not impact any other group at all, only the Chinese. And he also recognized that those laws had long-term impacts. And so that brings me to the third reason why I wrote this book, and that is to put real faces in front of these facts of history. This is what happened in Canada, and this is what happened to one couple, one family. Because the effect, as Terry said, that legislation had on Atang, my father, and Atu, my mother, was that although they were married for over 50 years, they were forced to live apart for the first quarter of a century. Chapter 3, Father Reborn. Atang, Canada, 1921. Atang sailed to Canada on the once famous Empress of Japan. When it was launched in 1891 to deliver mail between Britain and Canada, the 148-meter ship was a model of efficiency, speed, and elegance. But by the time Atang sailed on the ship, it was far past its prime. He traveled with a distant cousin from his hamlet, a nephew of his benefactor. Advertisements had once extolled the fabulous amenities offered by the Empress of Japan. And for the 31 saloon or first-class passengers on that particular trip, Atang learned that the ship was still a luxurious floating palace, providing different daily assortments of foods with foreign names like oludufus, samun, cheesy, coffee, and wine. While boarding, Atang had stolen glimpses of the staterooms equipped with beds, chairs, and individual electric fans. But Atang and his cousin had accommodations in an open berth at one end of the main deck. These sparsely furnished cargo areas were designated solely for Chinese, Japanese, and other Asiatic men. At one time, The ship could carry up to 700 such passengers, spread throughout the 2 lower decks. But Adang and his cousin shared the main deck compartment with only 110 others. In contrast to what he heard about the food for first-class passengers, Adang and his traveling companions were offered the same meal of rice mixed with meager bits of slop, day in, day out. It was not very tasty, and the helpings were small. However, they soon learned that the real food came in late in the evening, delivered by the kitchen staff. For about 20 cents a bowl, they could buy rice cooked in aromatic Chinese sausage or salted duck eggs. And between the 2 teens, they occasionally splurged and bought a couple of bowls of this Chinese comfort food, hoping to get information from the staff about the ship, and most importantly, about their destination. When the ship landed in Vancouver, the upper deck passengers alighted at their leisure, while the steerage passengers were counted one by one. At last, they too disembarked, but they were herded like prisoners directly to an immigration building at the bottom of Burrard Street, known to the Chinese as the Pig Pen. On board, they had been warned about having to wait in this no man's land until their papers were verified, the $500 head tax was paid, and a picture was taken for their identity document. The process could take months. No one knew the reason for these delays, but everyone who had been through it was convinced that it was the Chinese interpreters who were waiting to be paid some graft before processing any new immigrants. Taking in his surroundings, Adang couldn't help but notice that the walls were covered in Chinese characters. Some carved, some elegantly painted in ink, some written in crude, dark strokes, the color of dried blood. One quote in particular echoed his own thoughts. "I have always yearned to reach the Golden Mountains, but instead it is hell, full of hardship. I was detained in a prison. Who can foretell when I will be able to return home?" March 1919. Adang spent his 19th birthday behind bars. October to February were 4 months of confinement and starvation in a cold, dank, dreary building in a chilly, damp, rain-drenched city by the sea. Who would have believed it of Gold Mountain?
And if you would like to know more about May Wong's book or where you can find it, here is the link.
And now we have Sid-Tan and Imtiaz Popat on hot topics and the up-and-coming civic election with C.O.P.E.'s agenda.
We now have with us Imtiaz Popat, and my name is Sid-Tan, and this will be the last time you will see either of us on Access Community Television until after the municipal election. That is because that's what election regulations require of on-air people.
Well, at least as host, I guess.
As host, yes.
Yeah.
We can appear, I understand, talking about substantive things.
Along with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I should make it clear, I'm hoping that I can be a Vancouver City Councillor, and Imtiaz is hoping that he can be a Parks Board trustee, commissioner. Right. So thanks for being here.
So Sid, what are the main issues for City Council this election, you think?
Well, for me, I think the main issue is that we need to get developers out of City Hall. There are 2 major parties and they take millions of dollars from developers, and what we have is a lack of social housing and affordable housing, and it seems that the civic government has all but given away all these things that we need to do for low-income people and working poor. Yeah. And so the first thing is we need to get developer money out. We need to set up a Vancouver housing authority so that we can create more affordable and social housing. This is, I think, are the most important thing. And the other thing that I'm concerned about and why I'm running is that I don't think City Hall listens to the average person
They don't,
anymore.
yeah.
They have their plan, which is a developer plan, and they go ahead with it. You can go up to City Hall and talk, and you can organize, you can protest, but they don't listen.
Yeah, and
City Hall doesn't listen.
And I don't think it's just housing, though, that's involved in development money, because now we've come to know that the Aquatic Centre, they want to build with development money too. This is the Park Board. So where's the accountability? So now if the Park Board starts building our community centers and recreational facilities with developer money, there's a problem there in accountability. And I think that's one of the main concerns I have going to this election for Park Board, is that we want to have a park commission which is accountable to the city. And I don't think the Vision Park Board has, considering there's this thing that's just unearthed that they were making a backroom deal about, the aquatic center being built by developer money, and I think that's going to be an issue in this election. Also, how they dealt with community centers and how they pushed through this one pass, affecting their memberships, is going to be another big issue in this election, and so on.
There's a number of lawsuits that are going on too amongst these things.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing. I think the last count there are 7 or 8 lawsuits that community groups and other people have put against this council.
Right, about the developer towers and things like that.
Yes.
And I again think it's a big issue this time is going to be the cetaceans in captivity. That issue that's been going on and on and on, that's been dragged on with the aquarium. And now the Park Board's made a decision. It's not a very effective decision. I agree with them. No breeding of cetaceans in captivity. We need to phase them out, and this won't necessarily phase them out. But now the aquarium is taking them to court over that decision, whether or not they have an authority to start breeding in the aquarium for the cetaceans. That's going to be a really hot issue, and so on. And that's why we need an effective, strong Park Board to put a plebiscite, a referendum to the people, so we can decide whether we want cetaceans in captivity or not. We actually had that opportunity about the zoo, and we voted against the zoo, right? And then guess what? There's another thing in the parks, which is not a zoo. It's run by the aquarium. So although we voted against animals in captivity, we still have whales in captivity who are doing circus acts multiple times a day. And I don't think people want that.
I think another issue which has sort of come up, and I think it should be at the head of it, our current majority civic government, Vision Vancouver, promised to end street homelessness by 2015. And one of the things we've realized in the last homeless count, it has gone up. It hasn't gone down. Right. And I'm not quite sure where the accountability on this, but clearly I think the competing mayoralty candidate against Gregor Robertson has said basically what Vision has done is overpromised and underdelivered. And that has been pretty much a Vision trademark.
And we've seen the tent city, right, Oppenheimer Park, because of the housing issue. And there's also an issue with parks because they didn't want them in the parks in the first place. So there's notices that parks can only be used until a certain time of night. So you can't camp in the parks and so on. And that is an issue that needs to be resolved because places like Portland and Seattle actually have places where they can actually have, tents in parks and things like that. These are things that need to be regulated. And also the issue of jurisdiction, because we have the Chilcotin decision recently talked about who has access to the land use. Yeah. And we need to negotiate with the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish about land use. And I think that's an important issue in terms of who has jurisdiction.
Yeah. We got to get going now, Imtiaz. Thanks for being with us.
Yes.
And it was a great discussion. I wish we could go on longer.
Right, but this will go on. So.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for being with us. And thank you for being with us out there in TV land. My name is Sid Tan. This is Access Community Television, shamelessly promoting our friends and community. Until we meet again, straight shooting and tight edits.
If you haven't heard about the Oppenheimer protest, listen up to Lucas Meyer's report next.
Why is the Aboriginal community running a homeless camp in a park in Vancouver, Canada? Vancouver's Mayor Gregor Robertson promised to end street homelessness by 2015, but according to the last homeless count, Street homelessness has almost doubled since last year. In mid-July, homeless people began setting up tents in Oppenheimer Park, in the heart of Vancouver's downtown east side. The city tried to evict the tenters on July 20th, but the Aboriginal community stepped in. Vancouver is on unceded Aboriginal territory, which means that Aboriginal communities never legally gave up the land that Vancouver sits on. As the true owners of the land, a group of Aboriginal elders and leaders ordered the city out of the park and set up a camp. The city has backed down for now, and camp leaders have been having cordial discussions with city officials concerning the running of the camp and locating housing for the homeless people in the camp. The Aboriginals' camp forms a small circle in the middle of the park. All homeless people are welcome in the camp, provided that they are not under the influence of drugs or alcohol. There is a kitchen, a longhouse, and a sacred fire in the middle of the camp. I was not permitted to video the sacred fire.
This is Longhouse is our temple, and the sacred fire is prayers and energy and strength and power from the Creator.
There are many people camping in the park, but outside the Aboriginals' camp. Many in this outer ring of tents have drug or alcohol issues. However, some choose to camp on the outside for other reasons, such as better shade from the sun.
50 days ago, I was walking by Oppenheimer Park and I noticed 4 park rangers and 1 Oppenheimer Park staff member going around handing out notices to those that were camped here.
The park sport was handing out eviction notices to the people that were sleeping in Oppenheimer Park. So we decided that we're going to set up Tent City here. That's how it started.
A few days later, they sent us an eviction notice, and basically we sent an eviction notice back.
We're doing our best to support all the homeless that comes here. We started off with 3 tents. It started to grow. I've lost count of how many tents have gone up.
I mean, we meet with the city at least once a week, if not twice a week, and we talk about some of the stuff that's really needed. I've given them a list of 20 sites that the city can buy and use for safe low-income housing, and I've also given them a list of 53 privately owned SROs that need fixing up.
Hopefully we could get more tents donated because we're really short of tents. We've had people sleeping on the ground.
So right now, we just finished a meeting with the Vancouver Parks and Vancouver Fire Department, and one of the things that was all commonly agreed upon was the safety of the camp. And so what they wanted to make sure was they wanted to do a non-intrusive sort of mini inspection of tents to make sure that people aren't smoking in their tents or, nobody's left alone. Right now, today's concern was just the safety of people, which was shown with a great amount of respect. So it's a bridge building sort of mechanism that'll help, establish more solid ground for people in the near future.
And you've suffered homelessness as well.
Yes.
Experienced it as well.
I was couch surfing, plus I was working at the fish plant in North Shore. Finally, I got a little place, like a storage space, and it was free because I had cleaned the hallways and the stairwells for the elder couple that were looking after the apartment. Being homeless is really stressful, really painful, and it can create hardship with others, because you're couch surfing, right? I feel the pain for the people that are homeless here with the hardships that they're going through.
I have noticed that people who are homeless usually have had some horrendous experiences, often in early childhood. I asked Stella if she had been sent to residential school.
Yeah, I am a survivor of the residential school. I was living with my gramps at the time. I was a happy child there. But my whole life changed when I got to the residential school. I was hit in the ears, dragged by my ears, lifted up by my ears, and they had damaged my eardrums because of all the blood drainage that was coming out of my ears. They'd stick swabs in my ears, and I guess even make it bleed more. I don't know.
Wow. And so were you deaf when you left school?
Yes, I was.
And you've had to learn sign language and read lips?
Yes.
One thing under discussion was the washrooms.
That's the whole thing. Like, to do the right thing, we have to do something as dignifying as that to get them.
The city had attempted to close the washrooms. Brody had occupied the men's washroom and forced the city to keep it open.
Basically, he occupied it at closing time and let the staff member know that I wasn't leaving.
But the women's washroom was locked. And this was creating problems for women in the camp.
I think we're successful now in getting the city to recognize that they need to open up both bathrooms. It's kind of irresponsible to open up one bathroom where it's going to create a tension between sexes, male and female use of the bathroom.
And there has been no dialogue.
City officials declined to comment. So far, City Hall has also declined my request for an interview. The city says it supports the right to gather and carry out peaceful protests. However, the parks are there for the enjoyment of everyone, and the city is requesting that the structures be removed.
It's one thing that I really need to get across is we need homes, and we need them now. No, I'm not leaving. I'm not going anywhere until everybody's home. When the longhouse comes down and the sacred fire goes to sleep, that's when we're leaving, and when all the people have homes.
Well, the washrooms, the women's washrooms at Oppenheimer Park have been open for a couple of weeks, and things seem to be doing fine. But will the people at Tent City be able to secure housing? We'll keep you updated.
This is L.J. Meyer. Mayor Gregor Robertson and the Vision Vancouver Party promised they would end street homelessness by 2015. However, it's 2014 and a crisis appears to be gripping the city. There are regular protests against the lack of affordable social housing and homelessness. Homeless people are occupying Oppenheimer Park in Vancouver's downtown east side, and street homelessness is way up. This is the city's graph of the homeless counts from 2005 to 2014. Every 3 years, a count is done across all municipalities in the Metro Vancouver area. And since 2010, Vancouver has been doing its own count every year in between. The light blue represents the number of sheltered homeless, people who are in shelters, transition houses, safe houses, hospitals, jails, and detox facilities. The dark blue represents unsheltered homeless, people who are living out on the street or couch surfing. In 2014, the total homeless count hit a new high, and street homelessness almost doubled over last year. This chart on page 4 of the preliminary report on the homeless count does not make Vancouver look good. Unsheltered homelessness in Vancouver was up 249% from 2011. Whereas it went down in all the other municipalities except one. Even so, the city is saying that it can end street homelessness by 2015 if, with the help of senior levels of government, it keeps to its current plan. On the other hand, the Carnegie Community Action Project published reports in 2012 and 2013 warning that people were increasingly at risk of homelessness due to the rising cost of housing. I asked Jean Swanson, longtime activist with the Carnegie Community Action Project, to explain.
Well, we have the highest homeless count in the city that we've ever had, ever. And there's 3 reasons for that. One is welfare rates haven't gone up for 7 years, so people don't have enough money to pay rent in other places. The second is that the number of social housing units that are being built is really, really low. It's more like 200 a year compared to 700 or 800 a year in the 80s. and it's getting lower because there's no social housing program going into the future, virtually no social housing program. And then the third thing is the SROs, the single room occupancy hotels, which are the last resort before homelessness, are getting gentrified. Landlords are buying them up, they're putting in a laminate floor and a bar fridge and painting it, and they're renting a room that used to rent for $400 a month for $600 to $800 to $1,000 a month out to young workers and students, and the low-income people that used to live in them can't afford them and find themselves on the street.
SRO stands for Single Room Occupancy, which are hotels with single rooms for rent with shared bathrooms. There are approximately 5,000 rooms in these privately run SRO hotels. Most of the rooms rent by the month as if they were miniature apartments. SRO hotels are often small, dirty, and poorly maintained. Many have problems with bed bugs and cockroaches. However, many poor people on social assistance live in SRO hotels because of their low rents. People on welfare get $610 a month to live on. $375 usually goes directly to the landlord, and the remaining $235 is for food and everything else. People on other types of social assistance, such as old age pension or disability, may get more money, but $375 is usually more than a third of their income, which is considered the limit that they should have to pay in rent. Therefore, $375 is called the shelter rate and is considered the maximum that a person living on welfare, disability, or old age pension should have to pay in rent. Unfortunately, Vancouver has a crisis in rental affordability, and the rents in SROs are rising beyond the reach of people on social assistance. The Carnegie's 2013 survey of privately run SROs found that vacancies are minimal and no rooms are renting for the welfare shelter rate of $375 or less. The city's data also shows that SRO rents have been going up beyond levels that people on social assistance can afford. In 2007, 60% of SROs rented at $375 a month. By 2013, that number was down to 24%. However, people on social assistance seem to be able to hang on to their SRO rooms at rents higher than $375. But how much higher is debatable.
There's a little figure in the local area plan that says that, according to their information, the average hotel is renting for $450. Our figures say it's $469, but we have a little bit different methods figuring it out. But anyway, $450 is way beyond what a person on welfare can afford.
The second part of the city's graph shows SROs renting between $376 and $450 a month. And the last part of the graph shows SROs renting over $450 a month. Notice that in 2013, there was an increase of 17% in the number of SROs renting over $450 a month. If it accurately reflects a change in rent of 5,000 SRO rooms, then that's about 850 SRO units that became totally unaffordable to people on social assistance. Also notice that the SROs renting in the $376 to $450 range hit a peak in 2011 of 60%, and then declined to 45% in 2013. This 45% could represent well over 2,000 low-income people in danger of being pushed out onto the street. The city also mentioned that there were about 600 renovated SRO units with very high rents, but it did not say how quickly the number of high-rent SROs will grow over time. The city manager, Penny Bellum, appears to acknowledge in her reports to council that SRO rents are an issue.
Our SROs are, that's 5,000 plus units of our most affordable housing for low-income residents. They're far from perfect. I think, council, you've heard about a lot of the issues with them, but we need to work really hard to make sure they remain affordable to people on social welfare or a disability pension, where the shelter rate's about $375 a month, and they have to be fit to live in.
But the city does not appear to estimate the impact of people on social assistance being permanently pushed out of SRO hotels.
If you look at street homelessness, we had 538 counted in the 2014 count. If you add a 1% growth, that is what we accept as inevitable, it takes you to 542. If we have our interim and supportive housing units, our winter shelters and our rent subs all come, we could solve street homelessness and take about 230 people, off the total homeless list, which would be a major accomplishment and definitely in the realm of possibility. This is not magical thinking. It will require some resources, but it absolutely can be done.
If SRO affordability is one of the drivers for homelessness, I'm wondering why there is no number shown for how many SRO units are becoming unaffordable to people on social assistance. Another 850 unaffordable SROs, or even another 250, could mess up this result. I had a number of questions for City Manager Penny Bellum. She asked me to submit a written list of questions to the city's media group, which I did. However, I don't feel that I got satisfactory answers. So why is the city not estimating the displacement due to rising SRO rents and its impact on homelessness? I would be delighted to have an interview with Penny Bellum and hear what her side of the story is.
Next, we have our Unsung Heroes feature, hosted by Robbie Hartnett. He will be speaking with Carmelita Tapia, who is very active in the Vancouver Filipino community.
Hi, I'm Robbie Hartnett with Access TV, and I have with me my guest here today, Carmelita Tapia, for the Unsung Hero feature. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you very much for asking.
Oh, very good, very good. I have a list of accomplishments that I first want to start off with to sort of set the parameter of what we're going through here. You have served as director of the SD40 Business Company, a school district venture that is running programs in Asia, president of the Southeast Asia Canada Business Council, which helps to promote business relationships between Canada and Asian countries. You and your husband has a business called Odessa Manufacturing for the last 20 plus years. And some of the ventures that you've helped shepherd through is a pearl farm, a cocoa sugar farm, a mining venture, and even the opening of the Canada Tourism College in the Philippines.
It's true.
The council tries to foster working relationships between Canadian people or companies and partnerships with companies or governments in the countries of Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. And you also served on the Vancouver Police Department of Diversity.
Yes, that's true.
I'm worn out already. So let's get right into it.
Okay.
We want to know more about you. Let's start with telling me where in the Philippines you were born.
I was born in Malolos City. It's outskirts of Manila, but it's around 45 minutes away by car. So it's not very far.
What was it like growing up there?
Well, I grew up in the farm, so we have carabaos, we have horses, we have chickens, and it's fun, I'm chasing those animals my growing up years, and I'm having fun picking up fruits from our neighbor's orchard, and that's wonderful.
Wow. Yeah. So was that like the foundation of building who you are today?
Oh, maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay. And when and why did you come to Vancouver? Or what's Vancouver the first place that you came to?
Well, actually, I really did not want to go to Canada. I was trying to apply in Australia, but I went into the wrong building, and I saw Canadian Embassy. I just took an application form. My husband then was in Kuwait because he was a mechanical engineer, and he was with the Japan Gas Company doing this desalination plant in Kuwait. And so when I did not know that we will be accepted, when he came back to the Philippines, he's ready for interview at the Canadian Embassy. And after that, 3 months after that, we had to leave because the visa was issued already. He did not even know that we are going to Canada. That's why he was so upset when I told him we are going to Canada.
Oh, no.
That was the history. And
Oh, wow.
anyways, we never regretted it.
Yes, and certainly Vancouver has been lucky for that presence of change that happened there. Now, you also studied at the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, right?
Yes, I did.
And have you been able to use any of the skill sets in that?
Yeah, I basically am an accountant
Uh-huh.
by profession in the Philippines. But when I came in here, we put up Odessa Manufacturing. We landed in Vancouver, December 1988, and in 1990 we put up Odessa Manufacturing. I'm the accountant, and my husband is the operations manager. So.
Oh, okay.
So we've been doing this for almost 24 years.
Ah, I see. So, are you still on the New Westminster Board, Police Board?
No, I'm no longer with the New Westminster Police Board. I cannot hold up my cup
shit.
with those.
Goodness.
Oh yeah, it's
So
very
much.
hard to argue with the police officers
Oh, I see. Okay.
during meetings. No, it was an experience when I was with them. So.
Oh, very good, very good. How do you do it all?
Huh?
How do you do all of this stuff? I mean, it's amazing how many things you're involved in. I mean,
Yeah, actually the company is running good, so I'm just doing the books. So I think I have plenty of time. My kids are grown up, so that's it. And I don't want nothing to do. So I would
see.
rather do things than just staying at home or staying in the office doing nothing.
I see, I see. And what are some of the things that you're involved in the Vancouver community right now?
Well, in the Vancouver community, I'm part of this Philippine Cultural Pista ng Bayan Society, and every Independence Day we hold this celebration, annual celebration, and I'm the one doing all the permits so we can hold it at the park.
Right.
And
right.
actually the attendance is 3,000 to 5,000 people per.
Yeah, it's big. I was involved in that. That was huge. And also, I know you're involved in a play called Historama that shows the history from practically beginning till now, right?
Yes. Actually, I'm the chairman of Historama. It is a reenactment of the very important events that happened in the Philippines from the Aboriginal period up to the present day Republic. Right. And so we have songs and dances, we have cultural depictment. For example, the battle between Magellan and Lapu-Lapu, our first national hero, it was reenacted.
Wow.
So that's why our performers is more than 110. And we held it first at Queen Elizabeth Theatre, June 2012. Then we followed it up with another performance at the Shadbolt Centre,
right.
And then another one in Victoria. We are supposed to do it again May 2015 in Calgary, but right now I'm negotiating to be shown the play to be shown in Seattle in October.
Very good. And then you leave from here and go straight to Kamloops, right?
Yes.
to negotiate it being there.
Yes, I want to talk to that leader of the Filipino community leader in Kamloops so we can show it also in Kamloops. Actually, it's like a road show. So most of those Filipinos who were born here, they should really know what happened during the past so they will be able to appreciate the history of the Philippines. Yes.
And you know, it's just not enough. I'm trying to cram so much into the time, but one of the things that I noticed when I went to that, and they were showing some of the footage, was the Aboriginal people. They look like me. I was like, what?
Yes and no. Yes and no.
Yeah.
Because the Aborigines, they are from the mountain province.
Yeah.
And Well, they really don't look like you.
I'm joking, but it was interesting seeing that history, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, it's been fantastic having you here today. Like I said, it's so much that we learned today. And how can people find out about the Historama that's coming up?
Well, we are going to put it in the social media, like
Okay.
Facebook, Twitter, you know. That's how we do it anyways.
Okay.
Because we don't have enough funds.
Sure.
It's a community participation, and we don't have funds. All are volunteers.
Yep.
They are not professional actors, but when it's performance time, they really do good. And
Very
so I'm
good.
very happy about it.
Very good. Well, I want to thank you for being here today. And again, this is Robey with Access TV with the series of Unsung Heroes.
Oh, thank you very much for inviting me.
All right.
Next, Sit Tan chats with King-Mong Chan, who started last year as a practicum student and is now the part-time low-income Chinese community organizer with Gunargie Community Action Project. They discuss issues affecting the low-income Chinese community in the downtown East Side.
Hello and welcome to Access Community Television, shamelessly promoting our friends and community. My name is Sid Tan, and I have with me today King-Mong Chan, who is a recent University of British Columbia social work graduate and works in the downtown East Side on housing and anti-gentrification issues. Welcome to the show, King-Mong.
Thanks, Ed.
We've had a number of people from the Gunargie Community Action Project down here, Jean Swanson, Wendy Peterson, and we're so pleased to have you here. Especially, you are the younger of all the organizers, if I'm not correct. But first, your job title is Low Income Chinese Community Organizer. What does that involve?
It's like how it sounds. So I guess I organize people in the community, but particularly trying to connect with and to talk to the low-income Chinese community in Chinatown and downtown East Side. And the Gunargie Action Project, we've worked primarily on housing, income, and gentrification issues in the downtown East Side. And for me to connect with the Chinese community on those issues, so to learn about their housing situation, the housing needs, how the housing crisis is affecting them, in what ways, and to learn more about that. The incomes, where is their income from, and the diversity of people within the Chinese community, various incomes, and also particularly on gentrification. That's another big area of my work, and how that affects Chinatown over the past couple of decades, what Chinatown has, the changes in Chinatown, and now gentrification, how that is affecting what Chinatown looks like, what is the future of Chinatown, but particularly now talking to the low-income community in Chinatown that live in the area or shop there regularly, to learn about their views on these issues of gentrification, the changes in Chinatown, to learn about the responses, how they see these issues, and to engage with the community. I don't think that's been consistently done. So that's a big part of my role, is trying to build those relationships, get discussion going, and to learn more about these things and see where the community wants to take on particular issues that they want to advocate and to fight for, and to support them in that.
It seems to me, though, that when you bring up something such as low-income Chinese, there seems to be a little disconnect there, because by and large, I think the general population doesn't think there are low-income Chinese people in the downtown East Side or even in Vancouver. Have you been sort of looking at this, and how is the demographics and the distribution of low-income Chinese population in Vancouver?
Well, in the Chinatown downtown East Side, or just in general talking about low-income Chinese people, it's I guess partly of this perception that Chinese people are rich. This, in terms of media, there's so much talk about this housing issue of investment and how that's linked to mainland Chinese people. But I think when we're talking about people, it's it's not so much the ethnicity, it's more about just the class, the people that I talk with and engage with in Chinatown. A lot of them being seniors, but also knowing people working on low-wage jobs and are affected by housing crisis because their job simply doesn't have high enough wages for them to support the rising rents and things like that these people come across. So it's not an ethnic issue that somehow the Chinese people are immune from these issues in the system, the economic system that affect the housing crisis and gentrification. And so there's a lot of Chinese people that I've counted in the food lineups, various different backgrounds, some of them through the sponsorship program that maybe with family dynamics and things that haven't worked out and they don't have any income at all, or just relying heavily dependent on their children and whatever situations that arise from it. They may be abused and other things. Other people, like I mentioned, low-wage jobs. But there's a lot of Chinese people living in SROs. Like when you talk about downtown east side, talk about SROs, talking about poor conditions. There are a lot of Chinese people living in those SROs as well, and I engage in trying to learn more about the situation, learn more about how they see these issues and their stories as well. Some of those SROs are private, some of them are associations, those Chinese family associations, but definitely a lot of learning. So there's diversity, but there's definitely low-income Chinese people that are affected by gentrification and changes in Chinatown, and as a whole to Chinatown, which is really important to the Chinese community at large and really recognized as a symbol of, I guess, their heritage and history, and so how gentrification affects that.
So SRO, I guess we should explain, is single room occupancy. That is a room with, all you have is a room, and the bathroom and the kitchens are not in the same room. I think our audience should know that. And I guess there's another issue down there too, which I don't know if you work with, but I'll bring it up, is undocumented and non-status people.
Yeah, I haven't come across too many just because I'm part-time and given the nature of the work, but I have come across one person, and I know he doesn't have status but caring for his family, and on that issue, I guess, because he didn't have status, he's not eligible for the services and things, and so the support. But the family associations provide housing, low-income housing that is the stock is decreasing because of just the aging stock and other gentrification forces and things like that. And so people like this, they have to find different networks and try to find housing, probably really poor housing and in need of a lot of repairs or just undignified housing. And so there's definitely people like that. And part of my work is trying to learn more of these stories, and it takes time just coming across people and getting to build relationships with people to know these sort of things.
What has been your greatest challenge in trying to get your job done?
I think the Chinese community hasn't had as much education in terms of the analysis of gentrification, the housing crisis, how we see government forces and their actions and the policies, and also on that hand, linked to that is the organizing. There hasn't been as many Chinese organizers connecting on these issues with people, and I think that's overall led to how I personally feel how the Chinese community as a whole, although admitting the diversity, responds to issues of the housing crisis. It seems to me that they're more accepting of certain things of the housing crisis, or that this is the way things are happening, things are getting more expensive, you just accept it. But I think that's because there hasn't been that mobilization where people see and identify clearly these issues, identify the causes, identify the struggles. And I think that's my biggest challenge. If we can continue to build more momentum, connect with more people, to encourage people, support people, and to say that there are things that the government can do to change things and policies, then people are going to be more active and to actually advocate for those things that they struggle with, instead of trying to deal with it or just even just like letting them go and going to other places, moving, or just like giving up. So I think that's one of my biggest challenges, and hopefully something that can change.
And I'm just thinking, we're going to have to go pretty soon, we're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask you, is there something that we haven't done or talked about that you want to bring up with our audience?
I think just one of the main messages maybe is to know that gentrification does affect the Chinese community in Chinatown, downtown east side, and it's not, when you think downtown east side, there's a lot of Chinese people even going off the Strath Corner, which I haven't had the capacity to outreach too much into, but there's definitely gentrification, housing issues as well, and for people to be involved and to learn more about these issues and to try to support the community in advocating for what they need and what they're struggling through.
Okay, we have to go now, King-Mong. Thanks for being with us, and thanks for enlightening us on what is going on in the low-income Chinese community in the downtown east side. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We've been with King-Mong Chen, the low-income Chinese community seniors organizer with the Carnegie Community Action Project. My name is Sid Tan. This is Access Community Television, shamelessly promoting our friends and community, and until we may meet again, straight shooting and tight edits.
You can contact King-Mong Chan at the Carnegie Community Action Project at 604-665-2105 or go to www.ccapvancouver.wordpress.com.
And on behalf of the Honourable Christy Clark, the Premier of British Columbia, in partnership with the First Nations Leadership Council, they will be gathering on September the 11th, 2014 for an all-chiefs gathering, a meeting of First Nations from across British Columbia and the provincial cabinet ministers. Check us out in the future to find out more about what happened at the Fairmount Hotel at the all-chiefs gathering.
On August 4th, the Imperial Metals, the tailings dam breached, and all the tailings and the sludge dumped into some fresh bodies of water. The province of British Columbia and the Imperial Metals Mining Company have no solutions on containing the toxins, nor are they working on cleaning up the toxins that have flowed into the fresh waterways. They haven't been able to stop the toxic sludge from flowing. Right now, the majority of the tailings and the sludge in the water went into Polly Lake, and Polly Lake is flowing into Hazeltine Creek, which is flowing and continues to flow into one of the world's largest sockeye salmon spawning areas. In the tailings facility, throughout the 5 years data that we have, there was 2.6 tons of mercury in that tailings pond.
You have to be very careful in the areas within 100 kilometers from the tailing pond, for sure. And about the rest, it very much depends on the speed of the current, how the river is shaped, and so on.
We need some opinion and some expert advice on how that is going to impact the people of the area and the salmon.
Obviously, people must stop using the water from that area, and the fish has to be monitored regularly. And also, the Imperial Mining must be forced to sludge out what flowed out of the tailing pond.
Now we know, they said something like that could flow 100 kilometers depending on how the water flows, so we have some good contacts now, and hopefully we could really expose this Imperial Metals. And they said they have to clean up the sludge, and that's what we all know, is that they have to clean it up, and we need all that background expertise to really push that forward to the people of British Columbia and the C.O.P.E Nation and all the nations that depend on the water and the salmon. So it was good that we were able to talk to them. There needs to be something done with the water. One of the local residents said that the local water that they have put there for the residents to use at Spanish Mountain now contains arsenic. So now they're leaving it up to the people whether they want to drink it or not. So
where did they announce to you that there was something unsafe in the water, this water?
Just yesterday. I had heard it. I was talking to the lady that actually camps up here and looks after it.
What did she say?
All she told me was that their water results came back, and she got a hold of, I guess it would be Steve, I don't know if it was Steve Robertson or someone from Imperial, to say that the concentration of arsenic was a little bit higher in their water, and that, it probably isn't, they would leave it up to everyone's discretion to get water here.
yeah, we need to
But
we need,
arsenic, like there's arsenic in it.
Yeah, well, like
That's
I know it's
your alternative water source. It's like, oh, oops. There's all this mercury and stuff in that water source. Now there's arsenic in this one.
And then Jim said he talked to the person who brings that water up there, and he said that they said, oh, the water's bad. They just dump a half a jug of bleach into the water.
Who does?
That's what Jim said. That the people that deliver it up there is called something sanitation services from Williams Lake.
So they said it's up to you whether or not you drink the water. Did they give you any other alternative?
No. No, there has been no other alternative. For 2 weeks now, over 2 weeks, they have been asking people the people of likely the community, especially the ones along the lake that are really insecure of drinking the water, which rightfully so. I wouldn't drink it. I won't drink it. I won't even go in it right now. I won't let my dog in it. That the water's good. They can drink it. So for 2 weeks, people have been asking them to bring water in, and they are refusing and refusing. So I don't know why. It's water. It's a human right. We all have to live from the water. And we didn't do this. You know, it's like what they don't understand is none of them have drank this water. We've offered it to them. They say they will, but they haven't drank it. So that kind of tells us if they won't drink it, why would we? It's like, yeah.
Well, that's our show. We'll see you later.
And thanks for watching Access TV.
I'm done. Last but